All right, today we're talking about ecosystems. We're going to talk about biotic and abiotic factors, which are living and or things that have been living, or some living things that are dead. They're still considered biotic, like plants and animals and things. Abiotic factors like weather. These can limit the amount of organisms that it can exist in an ecosystem. We're going to talk about how organisms interact and how they compete for resources. We're going to describe how matter and energy moves through the biotic and abiotic parts of an ecosystem. Cycle of matter and food webs here. We have the idea of the different levels, um, where we have the producers at the bottom. These are the autotrophs that can make their own food. They're also called producers. All the energy is coming from the sun in order for this to happen. Okay. Then the next trophic level up, we have the herbivores that only eat plants. These are primary consumers. Then we have secondary consumers who eat the herbivores. And then we have tertiary consumers who eat the secondary consumers. So the energy goes from the producers to the primary consumers to the secondary consumers to the tertiary consumers. And you can see that it's shaped like a pyramid because as you go up, the amount of energy passed up is not all passed. Some of it's released in heat. Some of it's required because it takes digestion to get the nutrients out. With the secondary consumers, it takes energy to go and hunt these herbivores. And with the tertiary consumers, the same way, anymore, even more. Okay. So carnivore, meat eater. Omnivore means you eat everything. Heterotroph, something that um, takes nutrients from different things. Autotroph makes its own energy, like a plant. Cell respiration, they all take part in animals and plants in order to survive at the cellular level. Okay. Decomposer would be here at the bottom. They bacteria and fungus that turn the biomass into soil, which helps with the producers. So when all these things die at every level, they're decomposed and turned back into the soil that helps it start again. So the base, the most, are always the producers. The autotrophs, the producers, are the most. Okay. Population controls. Biotic factors over here are density dependent. Those are things like the amount of food. If there's lots and lots of organisms close by, the amount of food is a density dependent factor. If there's a limited amount of food, there's a limited amount of organisms that can survive. Is there a disease in place? The more dense the biotic factors are, the more likely for the disease to spread. Those are different things that can cause a limited population. On the other hand, if you have something come through like a wildfire or a flood, doesn't matter how dense it is, things are going to die anyway. These are typically abiotic factors like weather that cause that. Okay. Hierarchy of organisms here. We have a community, which is species. A single organism is part of a species. A group of species make up a population. Population is just the amount of the group of species. A group of populations make a community. All right. Niche is a part of the ecosystem that meets the needs of the species, the place where the species thrives the best. Biodiversity is the number of populations in a community. Okay. Then we have some interactions here. Food webs and energy that we just talked about right above there in the triangle. All energy comes from the sun. Most energy in the ecosystem is in the producers. That's the most of anything. Most biomass is in the producers. Same thing. Biomass and available energy decreases as you increase the levels. It's given off as heat. The concentration of energy increases as you move up. So animals have to eat a lot of grass to get through the day. Secondary consumer may not have to eat very often. Tertiary need to eat even less. often because these have much more dense energy sources than eating lots and lots and lots of grass, much more concentrated. Heterotroph or autotroph. Hetero means get nutrients from something different. Autotroph means nutrients from within. Carbon and solar energy move from abiotic atmosphere to biotic plants during photosynthesis. So the respiration happens in all cells, plants and animals. This uses energy stored in photosynthesis. Energy is moved up the trophic levels by consuming organisms. The energy is released at each level during cellular respiration. Okay. On this slide, we have symbiosis and organic interactions. Mutualistic relationships benefit both. Commensalistic relationships benefit one, the other is not harmed at all. Parasitic relationships benefit one, the parasite, and harm the other, which we call the host. Okay. Organisms in the similar or same niche will compete for resources. Those resources are food, water, light, and space. Predator animals consume predator food animals for food. Predator animals consume prey animals for food. Prey organisms will use camouflage, protective coatings, coverings, and other adaptations to avoid the predators. Okay. Here then we have the carbon and nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen's in the air. Plants can't use it that way. There's nitrogen-fixing bacteria on the roots of all plants and trees. This nitrogen converts the nitrogen, allows the plants to build proteins, which is the only nutrient that contains nitrogen. It's then released back into the atmosphere as organisms decompose. Carbon is absorbed by plants during photosynthesis. It's used to form sugars like glucose. It's released back in the atmosphere as organisms decompose, but some of it is also buried. Okay? Carbon that is buried may become coal, oil, or natural gas over millions of years. All right. Then we have some questions at the below here. Honey badger, honey god, and the badger. These birds direct badgers to the beehives. The badgers then expose the hives, eat the honey first, then the honey gods, whatever. Yes. Both of them are helped. What is this called? The remores attach themselves to the shark's body. They travel with the shark and feed leftover scraps from the shark's meal. The remore is helped. The shark is not harmed. After running through a wooded area, ticks attach themselves to dogs. Ticks will attach themselves to dogs and suck the blood for nutrients. So the tick is helped, the dog is harmed. Okay. Rabbits eat grass and other plants to survive. Do not eat animals, and animals are rabbits. Okay. They would be herbivores. Write an example of how a density-dependent factor can increase a population of birds. Density-dependent is something that is biotic. What is something that can increase the population of birds? Could it be more trees? It could be more food, something that is biotic in the area. Reduction in disease was an example of how a density-independent factor can decrease a population of cherry trees. So that could be a flood, it could be a tornado, any kind of weather event could do that. All right, and back to here. If both are helped, this is mutualism. If the remora is attached to the shark, the remoras are helped, the shark's not hurt. This is commensalism. The tick is a parasite. The dog is a host. This is parasitism. Rabbits are herbivores.